Morning all. I had a bit of a disaster game last night. I had some difficulty getting there, to be honest. I thought I was going to lose on time, so I was a bit frustrated even before getting to the board. It was at Hertford away. We had a strong team. Bonnet had a strong team. We had John Piggott, we had Alex, we had David Cutmore, we had Genghis Hasman. So this new formed alliance, wood green, some key wood green players for the Hearts League. So it's a great opportunity for them to play against strong opponents. Thankfully, Genghis on board too. He managed to beat Swanson yet again. Alex's game is going to be is being looked at, but it's probably a dead draw. David drew on board 5. John Piggott, he drew with their international master Simon Knott on board 1. So I managed to lose to P.Byway, and this is the game. Okay, so remember, I was already a bit, concerned, well, flustered is the word, at the start of the game. Would you say that if you thought you were going to lose on time and you had great difficulty getting to the venue? But okay, I'm going to create a few theories, 3 main ones. I've been thinking about this game, couldn't really sleep that well last night. There's 3 main theories why I think my calculation suffered in this game. But overall in the Hearts League, I haven't been playing greatly in the openings, etc. I haven't had as many wins as last season anyway. And I'm wondering, so the 3 main theories in outline, for me not calculating very well in this game, is, well, firstly, being flustered, getting there, all the hassle, because usually I'm sort of navigate to. And it's easy to put blame on other people, for not navigating. Okay, I should have been able to do it. The sat-nav didn't get to the right location, the right venue location. It got near to the town centre. I could have just parked the car in theory and just wandered around. That's what I should have done. So lesson learnt for next time there. The second theory is slightly deeper. In a previous video, the lucky win against Genghis, who thankfully won last night on board 2 for my club, the lucky win was based on this idea of emphasising, in effect, tactics over strategy, just kind of taking strategical ideas for granted, not really trying to think of them too much, and just look out for what details are in the position and making sure not to miss anything. Now, I believe actually such an approach is probably a little dull, actually, because when we go to play chess, usually we're playing chess as a game for enjoyment, and if your attitude is you're going to be a scrupulous kind of accountant style analysis of each position to make sure you're going to go for with a fine tooth comb and not miss anything, I think maybe that's not the right approach. Because maybe then you'll actually reduce your own motivation for playing. You're reducing the fun factor, and maybe it's the fun factor which does a few things. The fun factor, I think, I had more last season, and in a lot of games I've won this season, like in congresses anyway, like in the Hearts Congress. I remember the fun factor was there. So maybe there's a couple of things about the fun factor, looking for positional sacks, for example, sacrifices. The first thing is that, okay, you can get more hooked on the game, more interest, more motivation generally, which might actually make you more willing to calculate bog standard variations for taking care of details, for not blundering pawns or pieces. The other aspect is that maybe also, if you examine positional sacks for both sides, not just for you, there could be an element there that even though those are fantasy variations, they might echo and emphasize with echo variations elements or weaknesses in the position, so you become actually consciously aware of them. So basically there might be 2 indirect benefits of looking at fantasy variations and more creative ideas rather than try and be this scrupulous accountant. I mean, if someone said to me I could win games but I have to do the analysis trees of Kotov, I think I'd rather give up chess, because it seems to me like accountancy. It's like Kotov was saying how computers think, really, candidate means. I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could treat the game as this scrupulous looking at candidate moves business. So I think for me personally, if I'm going to play chess, it's going to be for fun, and actually the thought processes have got to be fun, but somehow at the same time bring benefits for relevance. But I think that is done, because if you look at a positional sack, so you imagine some sort of positional sack, like sacking a knight for something on c2, but maybe you spot c2's vulnerable, as an example. You know, the fantasy variations might bring insights to position. Of course, engines don't think like that at all, but we feed on motivation. As humans, we need motivation to play, otherwise there's no point playing anyway. So anyway, so that's the second theory. It's a bit more profound than the first about being flustered. And the third theory is simply about echo variations in itself. If you see a slight weakness in one variation, to try and explore definitely, you know, is that weakness emphasized in other variations, what the echo variations, which Nimzovich once labelled them. And we saw echo variations in the game yesterday of the Capablanca game. When the opponent resigned, because of the weak dark squares, there were echo variations like, you know, playing for knight g4 to f6 or to h6, because both were for dark squares, or playing for f4 to open up the diagonal. So these are all echoing weaknesses in the position. So okay, so there's three theories there, and I think the second is the most interesting, really, because I do actually want to really enjoy my chess again as well. So even, you know, if some of it is unsound and I would lose, if I was calculating well during those games and they were interesting games, then maybe it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's the intro, the three theories there. So what happened? Knight f3, I played the Dutch Leningrad. So far so good. We both fianchetto, we both castle. d4, I play knight c6. Statistically, with this system, I've done very well in over the board. So the usual response here is d5, and after knight e5, this kind of position, I would have perhaps done a positional pawn sack. Had a fun game. I've enjoyed games like that. I've won a few like that. So I like this variation with d5 because of the knight e5. It's kind of dynamic. You accept doubled pawns, but it's kind of a bit like a king's engine, but with more f-file sort of sharpness to it. Okay. Unfortunately, he played b3. Okay. So theory 1, I'm already flustered for this game, and I'm thinking I can't waste the tempo here to play a move like e6, because really I thought I ought to be playing e5 if I'm going to play e5 eventually, not e6. But actually, Rybka doesn't care about what's being played over the board by anyone, Rybka 4. But there's a few moves here. E6 could actually be accompanied later by knight e4. So e5 is not mandatory, and it will lead to an uncomfortable position momentarily because of this bishop coming to a3. And actually I used to play this myself against the King's Engine, a kind of obnoxious system, I'm ashamed to say, where I would take on e5 and then play bishop a3 against the knight bd7 line of the King's Engine, and I think I beat some strong. There was a strong player I was beating with it sometimes. Well, some strong players generally, but there was one in particular. So it can be quite annoying that the idea of b3 is often you want to play d takes and bishop a3, and there's some lines in the King's Engine with that. So it's an annoying line positionally, because really your rook is a tactical liability across that diagonal. Okay, it shouldn't be such a big deal at all, really. But as I say, my attitude in this game, as well as being slightly flustered, annoyed, is I'm actually trying not to miss anything. It's kind of a thought experiment. So rather than put emphasis on positional sacks, my emphasis was more on not missing anything. And actually by doing so, I missed something really kind of terrible, a really basic blunder very soon in the opening. So as I say, theory 2, which I presented, is the idea that if you're imaginative about the position, you might actually sense elements through echo variations. If I was imaginative like Queen e2, Knight e4 to sack a pawn on e4, I might realise later that if the bishop's over here, for example, bishop e2, that e3 becomes possible. And so you get in contact with quite a few elements of the position through even fantasy lines or echo variations. I wasn't really thinking that much, so I was in automatic pilot mode, didn't want to lose a tempo. I played E5 thinking this must be theory. In the back of my mind there was also this idea of sacking the exchange on F8. I thought I've seen an over the board game where someone sacked the exchange and won, which is true. I checked it out on chess games and that's true as well. So we have this D takes E5. Now here Cengiz was going on about someone playing this in a blitz game Ne4, but I don't think it works. Although it looks superficially quite interesting, exploiting this diagonal, these tactical liabilities, I think Queen D5 here gives white an advantage. It's probably why it's good to do post-mortems of blitz games rather than take their ideas for longer games. Just trying to add a Kibitzer, but I think Queen D5, when I checked last night, Queen D5 check just rudely interrupts this plan. Okay, let's say here. Now it looks as though this diagonal is dangerous, so against a player over the board, maybe this is dangerous. Bishop G5 here, though. And I think this can get a bit crazy with a queen sack line. But white technically has an advantage here according to about a unit. So that's an interesting queen sack line anyway. But anyway, the thought of knight e4 actually didn't occur to me at all. Knight g4, I thought there was going to be bishop g5. So I was calculating to that extent anyway. Or queen d5 is strong. But no, I thought bishop g5 was strong here because of that pawn covering f6. Okay. That's not really a problem. D takes e5 is actually, it turns out to be playable. The bigger problem though is e6 though. If I was a bit uncomfortable with this diagonal and not calculating too much, then maybe e6, even though it loses a tempo, it's not a disaster if white plays d5. And okay, I can play things like this and this potentially. But e5 is committal to this kind of unpleasant position momentarily. So we have this bishop a3. And some accuracy, actually, believe it or not, is required here. Okay. You see, I didn't like the opponent in this position, if I played rook e8, having the option of playing queen takes d8 for some reason, and then maybe bullying my rook. For some reason, I thought it'd be clever here and take the queen and play rook e8, because I thought, oh, isn't that kind of a safe position to take the queen and play rook e8? Because I was really concerned. Okay, I'm concerned about the diagonal. I'm concerned about e5 being vulnerable, and I'm also concerned about queen d8 distracting the knight from e5. So, unfortunately, rook e8 actually, as it turns out, if queen c2, the queen's unpleasantly not got too many squares, fine, but it's actually not too bad because of e4 locks in that bishop, and that wouldn't be too bad, because if something like this, I can interpose a knight, maybe even bishop d7 or knight d7, and these both possibilities are going to be okay. Things that could unravel like this. I would have time maybe to get my queen to a safer spot, and that'll be fine, although white retains an advantage. It's annoying, which is why I think the whole e5 thing, I don't know, I'm not sure I trust this e5, because actually at chessgames.com there's 3 games where white played e4 here, and all 3 were won with white. So has white got already a slight clear advantage? e4 here, Rivka's giving, taking, and a knight e4. But is this a nice positional sack by white to regain? Or is there something going on here? I don't know. With knight d4 maybe there's like counterplay. It's about equal here. Knight takes e4, but you know, black has the isolated pawn. White's got the nice e4 knight here. So I don't know this is that pleasant, but this knight gives black a bit of chances. In fact, okay, Rivka likes white technically here, so that's not a problem. But statistically, in over the board, it seems e4 is a powerful move at some point. I thought it was this point, e4, but it might have actually been taking first. Actually, I should really check that out. Maybe it was e4 here. e4 here, again, slight advantage to black on knight d4 given. So if bishop g5, knight actually taking on f3 and rook d3. Interesting. So there's a whole maze of variations. Let's not get too far into that. So back to the game. So I played a bit of a disaster move, believe it or not. So queen takes d1. As about to be unveiled, there's a problem here, and I think I had seen also some idea that that knight d5 could be parried. You know, I could take and then play knight d8 or something, and I wanted to keep protection of e5, you see, from the rook. So I think there was some logic going on like that. But unfortunately, to my horror, well, before the opponent plays the move, in his thinking time, I noticed, hang on, I've got a vulnerability here. I've got a terrible vulnerability. There's knight b5. Knight b5. I'm losing c7. I've got no way of defending c7 here. This is at move 12. After a struggle to get to Hertford Chess Club, after all that, the opponent plays a seemingly innocuous move, bypassing the fun stuff. Maybe I'm already demotivated. I slip up with one slight inaccurate move, and this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Anyway, I play on. I play e4, plays knight g5, and now I find a way to sack the exchange. Okay, to try and generate some counterplays. I play rook e5. He takes. Now play rook a5. He could just take the rook, but actually bishop d6, maybe that's even better. After h6, now he takes the rook, so I'm the exchange down now after hg. For some reason I thought there was something stronger here though as well, but let's not go into that. This is good enough. Now there's a neat idea here that he comes up with actually, because superficially again I thought, well, maybe the knight's a bit stranded, maybe, you know, I've got some compensation going on here, the d4 square. But b4 now, he sacks the a pawn to get to my pawn a pawn, which helps justify the knight, because he's getting then a dangerous pawn. It's quite a very strong move, b4. So I take on a2, b5, dislodging my knight on c6. So I play knight a5 thinking, well, has he missed knight c4 takes d6? But no, it's all under control. Bishop b4. The point now is revealed, this nice little positional combination, that basically after bishop e6, well, he was now threatening rook d8 check, winning the bishop. So I can't just take on c4, so I play bishop e6. Still thinking, you know, maybe I've got some chance here. But rook a1, so my rook's taken off. And then there's a trade now, a forcible trade, c pawn for a pawn. So his b pawn's quite dangerous here. Even so, I thought knight d5, you know, maybe, you know, b6, maybe I can try and trap this knight. Which comes into another amusing thinking episode here, revolving around b6. Why I didn't play b6. And we did a little bit of post-mortem after the game. And I think he was going to do something quite strange after b6. I think he was going to sack a piece. Now, if I had played b6, and he was going to sack a piece with knight takes b6, this would have actually blown his advantage to a large degree. In this position, if rook a6, there's still a way for white to maintain the advantage here, but rook a6 is probably not the best because of bishop c8, which so he was thinking about this e6 vulnerability, and so was I, but in a different way, because I had actually thought rook a6 because of a pin, and I thought ganging up 3 pieces, and he was convinced by that. But actually again here, bishop c8, so actually bishop c8 ends up kind of being a good move in these lines. But even here there's rook a4. If white plays an accurate move like rook a4, he retains an advantage. It all gets a bit messy though, it all gets a bit technical, like knight b2, bishop takes e4. What's going on here? Okay, so we both had this kind of illusion that about e6 being tactically exploited, but so b6 was my last practical try to try and lock in this knight. Okay, so it's a shame I didn't play that, because what I played actually made it a lot easier for him to win this game, just with this b pawn, basic element management. So I had actually convinced myself with this don't miss attitude that actually no, I want to avoid this because I'm falling into a trap that he's set or something with rook a6, when in fact rook a6 isn't even that great because of bishop c8. I mean, basically here, if he doesn't play rook a4, his advantage is really shriveling. Alright, so I make it easy, so I play knight c3 instead, so giving up the b pawn to try and get the e pawn to try and expose his king for some cheapos. It's hardly that many cheapos. He comes out with the knight, I play bishop f7, he takes the pawn, and this pawn's a real running pawn, really fast after that b pawn. My position's gone, the knight's also sorted itself out. It's a depressing game really. Check, tucks the king. I see a possibility of a cheapo idea to try and mate him with the 2 knights, but first I slip in bishop e5 to try and slow down this b pawn. Unfortunately the b pawn's running quite well actually, because after b6 there's a check and a nice sidestep move. He played a nice beautiful move Rybka likes a lot, rook c8, just defending the knight, so rendering bishop e5 totally useless because b7 and b8 coming quite quickly now. So knight d3, there's no real cheapo unfortunately because the bishop's on f2. b7, it's over. The fat lady is well and truly singing here. Knight d3, he just sidesteps being mated, of course. Bishop f1. Knight to d4. Okay, I could have resigned here. He just takes. I'm thinking, is there going to be another cheap on this diagonal in my dreams? But no, it's just knight e8 and now resign. He's on the bishop. If I take it, then he's on the bishop. He's also stopped king f6. I had enough. I'm getting mated by force as well, apparently. So, not the best game. My first loss in the Hearts League. Oh dear, oh dear. The good thing is that the team is not going to lose the match, I believe, because Alex's game, he's a pawn up in a sort of otherwise dead drawn position though, opposite coloured bishops. But if we have a look at this game again, so obviously my creative juices weren't flowing, which, I don't know, they add insight probably. If you're looking for advanced stuff, maybe it does echo basic stuff, but also maybe, the fun factor is important for motivation generally, to be able to calculate all the details that you need. So I think the fun factor was missing. I was annoyed anyway at getting there, how to, quite kind of late, and a struggle to get there. So it culminated in just missing this knight b5. Knight b5 is a tricky move sometimes. I remember this John Nunn game, he had a terrible position against Korchnoi, but he managed to win because Korchnoi had put in this knight b5 move. But there it was more positional. It wasn't forcibly winning material, it was just sitting on b5 really uncomfortably for John Nunn. But anyway, knight b5, dangerous move in this line. It shows that actually here, you know, rook e8 is necessary. Because the point is here that if white goes for c7 now with, say, knight b5, doesn't quite work out. There's knight e8, for example, or even just e4 actually gives black an advantage, locking in the bishop on g2. So say the bishop goes here, now knight e8, black's actually got a big advantage because look, the diagonal, the bishop's nice on the diagonal, and it can be evicted with a6, but even stronger actually here technically is rook d2 apparently. Rook d2. So this c7 needs to be taken care of. So there was kind of this variation with knight d5 I was checking out as well, which should have maybe emphasised c7 as a weakness to me, to look, to be on the lookout for the echo variations. But yeah, terrible blunder here. Queen takes d1 puts me on a terrible slide downwards, when rook e8 seems to be virtually the only move here. Rook e8. It's just a waste, really. It's a total waste of an evening's game, and potentially causing a match loss, but thankfully that didn't happen. Okay, so we have a terrible game here. So it's partly therapy I'm going over this game. I'm not sure how instructive it has been or is, or even my theories. They could be totally wrong. But it seems to me, personally, that I'm not convinced that if you go into a game with the attitude you're not missing anything, you'll probably end up with the reverse effect. Because we're not really computers, we need motivation to play. We need to get our energy to play, our enthusiasm. So maybe looking at fantasy creative stuff does a few things which are good. A, some of that fantasy stuff might actually be relevant at some point. B, there's echo variations and elements emphasized. The more you look at and analyze the position anyway, you'll see weaknesses in the position. So there's a greater awareness, heightened awareness. There's just benefits, I think, of trying to add the fun factor to the game. And it wasn't there in this game. So maybe I've been trying to take it too seriously. And the result is, a major tactical issue early on. So, and I thought it was going to get interesting here, the exchange down, but this b4 really did, dislodged my nice knight, because otherwise I was looking forward to a knight d4 at least. So all the dreams were shattered with b4, b5. So, and being put on basically in this position with this potentially fast running b pawn. Again, the only chance for survival. This is the point where I think a great deal of optimism that the opponent wouldn't see the apparently winning moves, which were not winning anyway for the way I envisaged it. But b6 to try and avoid losing the b pawn would really slow down the advance of white's b pawn. So instead, I embark on this adventure for a cheapo against his king. So it's one of my worst played games in the Hearts League, to be honest. Yes. Okay. So this is not really going anywhere, this cheapo. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.